How far would you go to help your brother? Uncle Henry banned all technology from his house the day we moved in. I was 16 when the plane went down over the Atlantic with both our parents inside. Noah was only 13 and barely spoke for the first 3 months after the crash. Uncle Henry was Dad's older brother who lived alone in this massive house in the mountains, completely off the grid except for one landline he kept for emergencies. He'd been preparing for the collapse of civilization for 20 years, stockpiling food and ammunition while ranting about government surveillance and mind control through Wi-Fi signals. The social workers thought it was perfect that we had family willing to take us, never bothering to check if Uncle Henry was actually equipped to raise 2 traumatized teenagers. The technology ban was absolute and immediate. Uncle Henry went through our suitcases that first night, confiscating our phones, Noah's Nintendo Switch, my laptop, even the smartwatch Mom had given me for my birthday. He locked everything in a metal safe in his basement, saying we needed to detox from the digital poison that was rotting our generation's brains. He actually believed that cell towers were transmitting thoughts into people's heads, and that social media was a government program to catalog citizens for future imprisonment. The only electronics he allowed were an ancient radio that only got 3 stations, and that emergency landline that barely worked half the time. At first I thought Noah was handling it better than me, because he'd always been the quiet one. He went to his new school without complaining, did his homework by candlelight when Uncle Henry decided electricity usage needed to be minimal, and ate the weird survivalist meals without comment. But after 6 months, I started noticing things that terrified me. Noah was wearing long sleeves in summer, spending hours locked in the bathroom, and I found him sitting on the roof at 3 in the morning just staring at the sky. When I tried to talk to him about Mom and Dad, he'd just say they were lucky they didn't have to live through what came after. I found the cuts on his arms when I walked in on him changing after he thought I'd left for school. They were deliberate, organized, parallel lines from his wrist to his elbow like he was keeping track of something. I begged him to talk to me, but he just pulled his sleeve down and said there was no point because nobody understood what was happening in his head anyway. He said the only people who ever got it were in his online support group from before, other kids who'd lost their parents and actually understood that sometimes breathing felt like betrayal. Those kids had kept him alive during those first horrible months, but now they probably thought he was dead too, since he'd just vanished without explanation. That's when I remembered the tablet Mom had bought me for school that I'd left in my locker the day of the crash. The school had mailed it to Uncle Henry's house, but I'd intercepted the package and hidden it in the barn under some old horse blankets from when Uncle Henry used to have animals. I spent a week figuring out how to piggyback off the neighbor's Wi-Fi from half a mile away, setting up a hidden spot in the loft where Noah could get signal. When I showed him the tablet and told him he could talk to his group again, he actually cried for the first time since the funeral. For 4 months, Noah snuck out to the barn every few nights while Uncle Henry slept. His whole demeanor changed completely once he reconnected with those kids who understood his grief. He stopped cutting, started eating regular meals, and even laughed at my dumb jokes sometimes. He told me his group had been worried sick about him, that they'd tried calling hospitals and police stations thinking something terrible had happened. One girl named Anita, whose parents died in a car accident, had apparently posted about him every day, begging for any information about where he'd gone. These weren't just random internet strangers, but kids who'd saved each other's lives by being the only ones who understood that kind of loss. Everything shattered on a Tuesday night when I woke up to Noah's empty bed and Uncle Henry standing in his doorway holding the tablet like it was a live grenade. He'd found Noah in the barn, talking to his support group about the anniversary of our parents' death coming up. Uncle Henry's face was purple with rage as he showed me screenshots he'd taken of Noah's conversations about wanting to die, about the cutting, about how Uncle Henry's house felt like a prison where he was slowly suffocating. "You gave him this poison," Uncle Henry said, his voice scarier in its quietness than if he'd been screaming. "You let him connect with strangers who were encouraging his sickness. These people were probably pedos grooming him, and you handed him right to them." Noah was sobbing behind him, begging Uncle Henry not to take away his only lifeline. But Uncle Henry just turned to him with cold eyes and said the words that made my blood freeze. "Pack your things, because tomorrow morning you're going to Wilderness Warriors Reform Camp where they'll fix whatever these perverts did to your brain." I knew about that camp from the news where 3 kids had died from neglect and exposure, where they made you hike 20 miles a day and beat you for talking back. Noah looked at me with pure terror in his eyes, and I knew that sending him there would be signing his death warrant. Uncle Henry locked us in our rooms and said transport would arrive at dawn to take Noah away. Full story on the channel below.